Good day. I stopped saying good morning because I realized that I might be speaking to somebody who's in the middle of their day or going into their evening. So, good day. Today, I'm talking to those who are now building those collaborative relationships or wondering how to start or build a network. The ones who have been plucked out of their usual communities and are in new places, but are still looking for their familiar communities. So when I was plucked out of mine, I knew God was calling me into entrepreneurship. And so because I am a Christian, when my career pivot happened, I looked for similar Christian structures. I looked for Christian entrepreneurship groups, and I made several attempts. I applied to these groups. Some of them rejected me. Some of them I managed to join, and I enjoyed them, participated, was a part of them, contributed. But after a while, something would happen and the group would either fizzle out or they would make some changes and I would fall off the list. For some reason, it would get to a point where there was no growth. And I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I understand, particularly as a single mom, our informal networks mean so much to us. You know, our friends, our families, the professional network that we're already a part of, that's baked into my office work. It's such a big part of my life and it adds value. It works. It provides a safe structure for me. It's another area that I don't have to figure out. And some of us, our family and our friends are a source of financial support, whether it is the day to day or it is the venture that you're funding. And so it becomes difficult for us to move away from that because this is a community that we've already been accepted into. The support is enough for us, and things run smoothly and it's comfortable. So if it's an area I don't have to disrupt voluntarily, I'm really trying not to disrupt it. And if I move, you're going to want to look for familiar ones, but they can be limited. You know, they can be limiting. They are available, yes, but they are limiting. And once that happened to me, I sat with God for a while and I was like, why is this not, how am I not moving? Why am I struggling to move? And he pointed out that I was looking for familiar feeling networks and I wasn't willing to grow into the new ones that he was calling me into. And once that light bulb turned on, I noticed that which ones of the networks weren't working, which ones were gaining a little bit of traction, but not much, and which ones were just like dead ends for me. I threw myself into finding ones that worked, and I found it on Twitter. I found a community on Twitter that was building because one of the things was to build in public. And so it's a community that is building in public. We have nothing in common apart from the fact that we are entrepreneurs that are just building whatever that is that we're building. And we're talking about it on Twitter. I'm at this stage. These are my challenges. This is what I'm facing. I posted the other day that I'm an introvert suddenly being asked to build in public. It is a community that is refreshing, that is encouraging, and full of actionable advice from people that you have never met before, whose backgrounds you really don't know. But also it is relevant to the place that I've been called, to how I am growing, and to the diversity of thought that I need to broaden my perspective, challenge me out of my old practices into adopting new practices. And also it's a place of training for me to use the new skills, the new knowledge that I've now obtained so that it can be tested and its application be reviewed because I've learned something new now. But then once I started getting into it, the second hurdle came, which was, now what do I say to this group? because you get this kind of advice that always says add value, add value. Everyone on the internet now is talking about before you ask, you have to add value. And you are wondering, well, I'm new in this industry and I'm new in this community. How do I add value? And you can get stuck on that for a long, long time. For me, the answer came one day during a devotional, and certainly this morning again. It hit me that if you can serve, you can add value. And it is just that, just serve. You do it anyway in other areas, especially if you are serving in a church group, especially if you're a parent and you are serving. And so if you know how to serve, you know how to add value. And it is such a simple thought that you can serve with your time, you can serve with your resources, and those resources don't have to be financial. They can be the network of people that you have built in your previous place, the wealth of knowledge of the landscape of a particular industry that you can help someone else navigate. And it isn't even about posting content on it, but it is actually taking the time when you see someone who says, I'm trying to enter into the space. Do you know of the HR person for this industry? Or do you know the director for that? Or do you know someone with expertise in these? And you actually have that connection. Help them connect, set up the appointment or the introduction even, and then help the person navigate a space. They're filling out a form they're not familiar with, help them fill out that form. They kind of don't know the language of the area that they're entering into. Help them navigate the language, because even just explaining what the language is helps people like me. I mean, my last post was how wild learning a new language is in this industry now that I've now suddenly become a part of. It's the language switch and terminology that you now have to wrap your head around. So if you know terminology, offer that, 3 words for the day. Tell us what they are, explain to us what they mean, and you've added value in your network. It isn't that hard to start somewhere, but your responsibility when you serve is to do it well. It has to be so surprising that how can someone serve so well? Then people start asking or coming to you and commenting and helping you. And one of the things that held me back for a long time, apart from trying to find the community, was my understanding of how I was serving and where to serve. I knew that I served everywhere, but also there were places that I was just telling myself I cannot be a part of that. Or I had an idea of how the season was supposed to be and who I was supposed to partner with in the season. But when you understand that you have been given authority to walk into those places that are unfamiliar to you, that are frightening, a little off-putting, and perhaps offend some of your Christian senses, you have the authority to enter into those places and not be harmed. When you understand that, you can go into that place with boldness. And then once you have entered into that place, your first point, be generous. Be generous when you don't know what to do there. Ask God, what need is that they have? Be generous. My morning read today was in Proverbs. I do a proverb a day. Keeps the doctor away. It's a bad joke. Oh gosh. But the Proverbs 11:24-25 says, one person gives freely yet gains more. Another withholds unduly but comes to poverty. And then 25 says, generous persons or a generous person will prosper. And whoever refreshes others will themselves be refreshed. And so learn to serve and to give that part of you. Keep open house is another one that Matthew 5:16, 5:16. In the Message says, keep open house, be generous, because we have resources that other people need that we have been stewarding over. Our season in them might have shifted, but we can still help someone else navigate where we have been. And so serve and give of that. And so again, evaluate where you are. So if you're not gaining traction anymore in the familiar places or familiar communities, look at why and who you are still trying to connect with. Check if it is still appropriate for where you are entering into. And once you have discovered the new place you ought to be connecting to, be single-minded in finding a community that you can plug into, a community that moves you in a direction that God has called you into, that might not look like your previous community. And then the second part we said is serve as you wonder how to add value, serve. And so that's my motivation for you for Monday, is to not shy away from the places that are challenging to your thoughts. I spoke about it a little bit in the wrong I ams, your identity. That comes into play here again. The area that you are called into might not look like what you think it ought to look like. And the people you are called to build with might not look like the people that you think it ought to be. And so be open to the leading of the Holy Spirit. Ask God when you've done everything, because I built the stuff, I prayed, I fasted, and nothing was happening. And as soon as I found this community, I started to see movement in a direction that I was like, wow, God, okay, I've heard you now, I listened. And then don't get stuck on what to say. Serve. You familiar with how to serve? Serve. Okay. Enjoy the rest of this week. Be blessed. And we will connect next time.